reality of His eternal form and pastimes. Thus they unwittingly belittle the eternal position of all living beings by denying their eternal personality and activities in the kingdom of God. The impersonalists, through their mental concoctions, try to minimize the position of Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities who are part of Him, reducing them theoretically to a formless, nameless light, which by their concoction they claim to be absolute God. The Vaishnavas, however, welcome the Supreme Personality of God experience. But the Vaishnavas intelligently understand that there are many wonderful things far beyond our limited experience. Therefore, they accept the words of Krishna, who states in Bhagavad Gita 15.19, Yo mam evam sammudho janate purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything, and he therefore engages himself in full devotional service, O son of Bharata. In this connection, Srila Prabhupada states, there are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities in the Supreme Absolute Truth. Now in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna as Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about absolute truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. It is not that one should simply speculate academically. One should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is able to understand this according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas. No one else knows the purpose of the Vedas. Therefore, exalted devotees such as 9 Yogendras always accept the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as expressed here by the word Narayana Parayanam. King Nimi was a Vaishnava and therefore he worshipped the great sages with the same respect with which he would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as shown by the word Yatharhata. Although impersonalists falsely claim that every living entity is equal to God, they cannot properly respect any living being because of their original offense at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality. Their so-called worship, even of their own gurus, is ultimately self-serving and opportunistic. When an impersonalist imagines that he has become God, he has no further need for his so-called guru. The Vaishnava, however, because he accepts the supremacy of eternal personality of Godhead, is ready and willing to offer eternal respect to all living beings, especially to those most fortunate living beings who have achieved shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. A Vaishnava's worship of the Lord's representative is not self-serving or opportunistic, but is an expression of eternal love for the Lord and His representatives, as indicated here by the word Pritaha. Therefore, it is clear from this verse that not only the 9 exalted sons of Rishabdev, but also King Nimi himself were all great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in defiance of the artificial and limited concept of impersonalism. This is the point. Om Agyan Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Stam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Nabita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasat Desatarine Nityananda Mahamnami Sarvananda Karam Harinama Pradam Devam Avadhuta Shiromani Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauradashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nilachal Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balbhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namah Vancha Kalpataru Vesha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pankhum Langhayate Guru Yat Kripa Tamham Bande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So I humbly seek blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas here, especially Prem Sarup Prabhu, Vrindavanchari Prabhu, Varangsman Prabhu, Maharaj Prabhu, Grace Nimai Prabhu, and the exalted Vaishnavas here. And please bless me so that we may be able to speak from this beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam for the purification of the heart, for the glorification of the Lord and His devotees, as a service to all Vaishnavas and for the benefit of everyone. Hare Krishna. So, I was hearing recently one lecture by His Holiness Radhana Swami Maharaj, and I would like to share something which can help us get a very deep perspective into essential need of everyone, and through that we'll try to understand. And this beautiful section already yesterday Acharya Ratna Prabhu gave a very, very beautiful and deep class, and because Prem Sarup was just in the morning suddenly ordered me that I must speak something. So in the same verse we'll try to further reflect based on what we have heard. So I was hearing this lecture and Maharaj was explaining that how in this world there are people in this world work so hard for getting a lot of opulences, for wealth, prestige, power, name, fame. And Maharaj was saying that people work so hard to achieve these opulences with the idea that they will give us shelter. Essentially, everyone is looking for shelter. This is what very, very deep and important. And then Maharaj further says that there are two primary aspirations of the living entity. One of them is pleasure, and another is shelter. Pleasure, everyone is either wanting shelter or wanting some pleasure, immediate pleasures. But then Maharaj says, but you cannot have pleasure without shelter. Without shelter, water is giving us pleasure is like a drop of water on the lotus leaf, which can be taken away at any time. Because just like anyone is feeling happy, like once I saw one small clipping where there was a monkey in the mouth of a crocodile. So monkey was already inside the mouth of the crocodile, and this monkey was jumping here and there and trying to, eat some fruits, trying to enjoy, but already is going to be finished. So you can't be actually happy, if you are already finished, if you are already dead, So if there is no shelter, then the pleasure doesn't make any sense. So that means shelter is what gives, what is our actual need. And then Maharaj was saying further, people try to make their health better, become strong, become rich, study to gain knowledge, because they want shelter. So all these different activities in our life, everyone is doing because actually we are looking for shelter. And Maharaj says further, both physical as well as emotional shelter. So two types of shelter. Physical shelter is we require, Maharaj further saying, I'm just reading the transcription for some time. Physical shelter is what we require, the maintenance of life and the facilities for sense gratification. Some physical body and kuch senses ko chahiye. Emotional shelter is our false ego. It wants to be loved and to love. Conditioned soul wants to be respected. That same false ego perverted reflects in a need of respect. It wants to be adored. And we think that love will come by adoration. To the degree we are not experiencing real love and real shelter, we may need all these things of adoration, respect, prestige, And in that way, pursuit of life changes, not understanding what we are actually looking for. Right? So everyone actually in this world is looking for shelter, but we may find so many other venues to try to cover up that real need of the soul. And I was saying further that if you actually love God and you feel love of God yourself, you do not need any of those things of adoration, respect, prestige, people trying to, or even sense objects. And then Maharaj says that we need these things because of the emptiness within. If one is finding fulfillment, whether one is praised or blamed, it really does not matter because we are experiencing God's love. And just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, explaining about the Sthita Pragya, personality, Krishna says, Apuryamanam achalam pratishtham. He's saying that this personality who is Sthita Pragya, he is Apuryamanam, he is completely filled. Just like ocean. Ocean is filled. Anything coming, it doesn't hamper him. Similarly, one who is sheltered, one who is feeling that shelter, complete shelter, he is not disturbed. He is not disturbed by anything coming. And he doesn't want all these things also. He is full already. Someone is full in his heart with love and shelter coming from Krishna, Guru and Vaishnavas. He is feeling shelter of Vaishnavas, then he doesn't need adoration. We'll try to go more deeper, try to understand this topic today from this section here. We are seeing here Nimi Maharaj. He is so happy to receive these exalted Nav-Yogendras. In the previous verses, we are reading that Nav-Yogendras are. I'll just read. We are supposed to read these verses also. So we'll read about Nav-Yogendras. Text number 23 says, the 9 Yogendras are liberated souls who travel freely to the planets of demigods, the perfected mystics, the sadhyas, the heavenly musicians, the yakshas, the human beings, and the minor demigods such as kinnaras and the serpents. No mundane force can check their free movement, and exactly as they wish, they can travel as well to the worlds of the sages, the angels, the costly followers of Lord Shiva, the Vidyadharas, the Brahmanas, and the cows. So such is the exalted nature. And what is more exalted, further it says, once in Ajnabha, that is Bharatvarsha, Vishnu Thakur says, they come upon the sacrificial performance of the great soul Maharaj Nimi, which was being carried out under the direction of elevated sages. So they all come. Such an exalted personalities, nine Yogendras, they come. And my dear king, seeing those pure devotees of the Lord who rival the sun in brilliance, everyone present, the performer of the sacrifice, the Brahmanas, and even the sacrificial fire stood in respect. So now, yesterday Acharya was explaining this point that how sacrificial fire is himself standing in respect, and their brilliance is like sun. Now one reflection that as soon as such an exalted personality come, depends on us in what attitude we have will determine how do we receive. Obviously external etiquettes are important. But there may be a feeling in the heart that, oh, they are so great. So I want to be also becoming great. One may have that type of understanding. Okay, ठीक है, ये लोग इतने बड़े हैं, मुझे भी ऐसे ही कुछ बनना है. But a very deep understanding is that as soon as one has this kind of competitive or envious type of nature towards the exalted soul, one loses peace of mind, one loses the real thing which he could have received, and that is shelter. Whereas here we find this exalted Nimi Maharaj, he is understanding, this verse says, King Videha understood that the 9 sages were exalted devotees of Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could immediately see the connection. Oh, here are devotees of Krishna. That's why the word comes Narayana Parayana. He didn't saw them as some great people have come, I am great, they are great. Not like that. He thought that here are the devotees of Krishna. Therefore, overjoyed at their auspicious arrival, he offered them suitable sitting place and worshipped them in proper way, just as one would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Knowing very well that the shelter of Krishna is received through these sages, he started serving because from the heart he wanted to serve, satisfy and please the Yogendras. Why? Because he was situated in the true platform of real need of the soul, because he knew that all I need is shelter. I am a tiny jiva, I need shelter. So when we follow Vaishnava etiquette, here in this verse, purport, we are hearing about Yathar Hatha means according to the proper etiquette. So he follows the Vaishnava etiquette. When we follow the Vaishnava etiquette, what we receive is, in return, when we deal with devotees with that Vaishnava etiquette, we receive is their shelter. Right? They feel so happy and they provide shelter, which is our real need. Right? Even if we, even instead of following Vaishnava etiquette, sometimes if we deal with devotees, in terms of dealing with devotees in general, if we deal with devotees in a harsh way, sometimes even fighting for what is right, even yell, and even if we achieve, by doing all that, by all the dealing, even if we achieve wonderful successes, so-called successes, but we don't have satisfying, sheltering relationships, then it's all useless, because we don't get what we are hankering for, and hence that pursuit of more and more success, more and more bigger things keeps going on with no end, because heart is empty. Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Bhagwan ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So day before yesterday, Gauranga Smaranam Prabhu was giving a very, very beautiful class, Brahmachari class. I was attending that. very, very intense and deep points he was making. I want to just share that and further build upon today's discussion. So Prabhu was mentioning about how everyone in this world is looking for at 3 levels. I think it's quoting from Gaurang Prabhu's lecture. Sukh, Shanti and Anand. शरीर के लिए सुख, मन के लिए शांति और आत्मा के लिए आनंद. So तीन level पे ना, and 3 levels we need. We have this hankering and need. And he was making a very interesting point that how we'll go like this. First like this and then we'll come like this. So he was explaining about that how we look for sense gratification. Sukh means sense gratification for our senses, and we want to have that pleasure. But when there is shanti is achieved in the mind, when there is shanti, then one is satisfied with simple things. And he was giving examples. Suppose you got some nice success in your life, then even if you have simple prasadam, you are satisfied. But if you're failure, then even if feast is there, you don't enjoy it. So Shanti gives you higher platform of happiness, where you can overlook the sukh, the bodily platform. Whereas the next level, that is Shanti is for the mind, and next level is Anand for the soul, and if that comes by relationship, very interesting. When there is relationship, mellows, exchanges. For relationship, one can give up his his peace of mind also. What to say of his sensual pleasure. And Prabhu gave a very nice example of Prabhupada, I think, quotes this, that in Bombay, a person may be working very, very hard. He is not having, he's working hard for 12 hours a day. He is not having sukh. He is eating very little bit. And he is not having shanti because he is working so hard. His boss is giving anxiety. The people around is giving anxiety. He is living in a very austere way in some slums, But he is thinking that I am earning all this money for my wife and for my child, maybe far off in Bengal. They are living there, and I am working here in Bombay. And they will be very happy. And thinking, having that relationship, that they are happy, he is ready to give up his sukh and shanti. It's very interesting. I was really feeling very enlivened as Prabhu spoke. So hence, actually, this is what we are looking for, and we forget. We forget that actually all we need in our life is genuine, sheltering relationships. If we have that, then because the anand, the real happiness, depends on that. And if we do not have a sheltering relationship, we don't find a proper relationship with Krishna, with devotees, with the spiritual masters, then we come down from Anand, then we work hard for Shanti. And when we don't have Shanti, and we don't have peace of mind, then again we go down for the sukh, for the pleasure in this world, but we don't find it. That pursuit keeps going on. And hence actually, a loving relationship can satisfy one fully. If we, in this purport today, these devotees, proper disciples, are very sincerely explaining about impersonalist philosophers. This saying, purport says, although impersonalist philosophers claim that every living entity is equal to God, they carelessly step over the heads of their so-called spiritual masters and freely speculate on the nature of Absolute, giving their own whimsical opinions in defiance of the impersonal whims of their so-called gurus. In other words, although Mayavadi impersonalists claim that everyone is God, they ultimately show an offensive mentality towards Supreme Personal God and rejecting the reality of His eternal form and pastimes. So a person who doesn't understand the real need of the soul, that is, I need shelter, I need love and affection. This is, he rather tries to think that You see, Mayavad philosophy is what? It is a pursuit in a direction of getting more and more power. Right? He's not understanding, I don't need power, I need shelter. They're two different things, two completely opposite things, two completely oppositely defined. Because when we have competitive attitude, when we're dealing with devotees, dealing with anyone in this world with competition, we never get their shelter. Right? We always get their competition or envy, or maybe some fights. We never get shelter. So one is thinking that I need to achieve more and more and more, and that's why Prabhupada says the last near is to think that I want to become God. So Mayavad is the highest materialism, right? The topmost materialism, right? So much so that he is saying, I want to become God, and I don't want anything, and he actually want to minimize everyone else, right? And that's what this verse is, and that's why he don't want to respect. He has no respectful attitude towards anyone, because I am God. And here in this purport says he don't only even respect his guru. He even walks over the head of his guru. So why guru is needed? Rather, an interesting attitude this in this purport is pointed out about the Mayavadis, opposing to the attitude of the devotees. It says, the last paragraph, it says, their so-called worship, this is about Mayavadis, their so-called worship, even of their own gurus, is ultimately self-serving and opportunistic. If at all there is service or respect shown, it is just so that how I will serve and climb over and I will become. Right? So this kind of service doesn't satisfy the self. Neither the other person becomes happy, neither we receive shelter, and in that way, actually, we are all defeated. Not understanding the real need of the soul, that is, we are all, Anand Mayo Bhyasat, we are seeking Anand, and that bliss is in the sheltering relationships. Right. So now the question can come. Now the question comes that, okay, how do we receive shelter? What is that which gives us shelter? How do we receive shelter? And the answer is right in this verse. This verse gives a very beautiful answer. It says, Kritaha sampujayam chakre asan sthana yatharhata. So very nice, in a proper way, in a service attitude, when we deal with Krishna, with devotees, where we want to really serve. So yesterday, Prem Surpur gave a very wonderful class also, and Prabhupada was also explaining this point that we have this two aspects. Actually, we never see with our eyes; we see with our own mind. We now don't see with our eyes. So we have certain mindset and perception of the world around worldview. It's called as worldview. We have a certain worldview, and based on that worldview, we deal with people and we do things. So if the worldview is that this world is, I am the center of this world is meant to make me happy, and everyone should cooperate for that purpose. If this is the worldview, then how a person becomes so frustrated. Yesterday, Prince was explaining how there can be so many things happening. Anything happening in this world will lead to some frustration because the truth is that we are not the center. If someone is saying, I am the center of the world, he'll be frustrated because he's not the center. Things will not be according to his way. No one is going to cooperate for him. And hence he will be frustrated. So this worldview is simply a frustrating worldview, and it's not satisfying because our original nature is we are looking for shelter. So we are going against our nature. So in that way, it's self-defeating. Whereas another worldview is attitude of service. How can I serve? Right? Only to think that how can I serve? Anywhere we see, we look at how can I serve. What this attitude does, it certainly transforms your heart. It certainly makes you happy. More wonderful thing happens is that you receive shelter. Right? You receive shelter from all people. You receive shelter from your equals, you receive shelter from your seniors, you receive shelter from your juniors, you receive shelter from Srila Prabhupada, from spiritual master, from Guru. That means how to receive shelter is one word answer is service attitude. If we have this service attitude, then we receive shelter. And how amazing is the opposite nature of a conditioned soul, where we compete and we want to win. And even if we win in the competition, competing with others, and we get a lot of success, we are frustrated because we don't get shelter. And if we serve, even if we lose externally, we don't become some very big, so-called big people, neither in terms of wealth, in terms of prestige, in terms of position, in terms of so many things. Just we serve, we are satisfied because that genuine service helps one receive shelter. Because immediately one has sheltering relationships. It just, one has love. And hence, what all things we can do in our dealing with Krishna, with devotees, with Prabhupada, with the spiritual master, with holy name, with everyone. Actually, we need shelter of everyone. Right? Chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is also same thing. Everywhere, how we deal, what is our attitude? We chant Hare Krishna with attitude that how I can extract maximum happiness by chanting Hare Krishna. How can I extract happiness from the holy name? So when we have this kind of attitude, we miss out. We miss out what real shelter holy name can give. Everything, deities, how we can, serve deities in a way that people can glorify me. Then we miss out the real bliss or real shelter we can receive from the deities. So what we need to do when we deal with deities, with Prabhupada, with Guru Maharaj, with Vaishnavas around us, with holy name, with Prabhupada books everywhere, especially with devotees, because most easily accessible way to receive shelter of the Lord and Guru is through the devotees. So how we receive? Some few points to reflect. First is, when we deal with devotees, we give up competitive attitude. Right? That is, there is no competition going on. Right, out here that who will outdo, who will outperform. Right now, it's all service, devotional service to Srila Prabhupada. So we give up competitive attitude. Second, we genuinely serve. We genuinely want to serve. Genuine service, as this purport says, a very nice 2 words. It says, so-called service of self-serving and opportunistic. It's not opportunistic that okay, मैं सेवा करूंगा इधर पे तो मेरे को ये benefit मिल जाएगा, ऐसे फायदा हो जाएगा. अच्छा यहाँ पर ये मुझे बोला जा रहा है, maybe if I do this, Prabhu, what I'm going to get in return? It's called opportunistic. So we genuinely want to serve. Then we receive shelter. Amazing. When we are opportunistic, somehow or the other, every jiva has that sixth sense, that they're able to understand the ulterior motives. And we even say in our youth preaching, when a senior goes for registering the first year boy, right? We even tell the tell the mentors that when you're going to register them, let's say for a camp, if you have real motive to help that person, he will understand that and he will be convinced. But if you have only motive that how I want to, somehow the other, get more number of people, and somehow the other you want to force him to come, just because you want to show that how I brought more people, he will understand that motivation. So he's a non-devotee. Just imagine. I'm saying a non-devotee, a new boy, he can understand what is their motivation in the heart, what to say of devotees who are more closely connected to Paramatma. Devotees understand. So hence, second point to receive shelter is of devotees. First is we said, give up competitive attitude. Second, we genuinely want to serve with no opportunistic type of idea, no self-serving and opportunistic, as described in this purport. No such ideas, but we genuinely want to serve and please, as Raisham Prabhu makes this statement, very beautiful one-line statement which encompasses everything. To serve, satisfy and please Hari, Guru, Vaishnava. It's like a one-line entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness. What is to be done? To serve, satisfy, and please. That means to serve, but not just to serve to finish the service, but to satisfy. That his heart is, is so happy, and not just to satisfy, but to please. So to please, I want to really please him. And that actually, when a devotee is pleased, he gives shelter. Right? And whose shelter he gives? He gives Krishna shelter. There is only one person who gives shelter, but he gives shelter through his devotees. And hence, when we receive devotees' mercy, the devotees are pleased, we receive shelter of Krishna through them. So that's the second point. Third, we serve also with more humility. As in this verse, we are seeing that how Nemi Maharaj is serving with great humility. And that humility is what, does two things. This humility is like a glass is there. Humility is like a glass holding like this. If I hold a glass like this, then I can receive the mercy. And pride is like holding the glass like this. If I hold the glass upside down, like this, if suppose upside down I'm holding and say, Prabhuji, give me mercy. The mercy may come. Mercy will come because devotees are naturally merciful. Kripa Sindhu. Kripa, mercy ke ocean. But only thing is you will not receive anything. So one thing is that humility gives you access to receive the mercy, and second thing is humility really attracts the mercy. So that's why third is with humility. Fourth is with Vaishnava etiquettes. That means we somehow or the other learn to follow Vaishnava etiquettes, because how much ever we may think that I have a right motivations, but if the Vaishnava etiquette goes wrong, somehow or the other, knowingly, unknowingly, Vaishnava aparadh ho jata hai, aur fir, and then there is a chance that we will not receive shelter. Then there is some misunderstanding which happens. So Vaishnava etiquette, today's purport also talks a lot on Vaishnava etiquette. Saying that etiquette for worshipping Vaishnavas is expressed by Vishnu Thakur with the word Sakshat Dharitrena Samasta Sastra. Exalted Vaishnava, being totally surrendered to the will of Supreme Lord, is taken to be transparent medium for the Lord's will. So in that way, devotee is understanding that this is not just another person. Here is a devotee who is actually very close to Krishna. I can please Krishna only through him. And also with submissiveness. The fifth is, as in this purport also comes, submissiveness. So when we are submissive, humble, following the etiquettes, we genuinely want to serve and we don't have competitive attitude, then we can receive the shelter. This attracts shelter. I had one small experience yesterday. I had got Archan service, so I was sitting. So we sit down for doing Archan of Nitai Gauranga, and Archan is a very. It's like roughly 50% is quite in mind, a lot of meditation and mantra and everything. So I was sitting. I sat down to do that, and there was one devotee who was doing dressing, of deities. And while I am doing Archan, this devotee asked me a question, asked me something. And I was like, I need to be fully absorbed, obviously not so absorbed. I heard the question. But I didn't respond because I was busy doing the procedures mentioned there. But then in my mind, while I'm doing these procedures, in my mind this thought is going on. That Prabhu asked the question, I should reply. But then I'm thinking, but right now I'm doing Archan and I should be absorbed here. I should not reply. And in that way, a tussle started in the mind. that I should reply, I should not reply. And almost 2 minutes went by. Prabhu who was doing blessing, he didn't spoke anything further for 2 minutes. I also didn't spoke anything because I am busy.
But in my mind, this is going on. And then I thought, I don't think I will be able to really please Nitai Gauranga like this. So I immediately stopped my procedure right there and said, yes, Prabhu, what do you ask, Prabhu? I just, and then he asked the question, and then he talked, and then I told Prabhu, you please bless me that I can do this today's archan on time. I didn't respond it because I'm already late, and Vrindavan Sari Prabhu knows that how late I become. So I told it, so please bless me, I can do the archan. And then he told, okay, if you really want my blessing, you come here. And then I was thinking, already I'm sitting and I'm not supposed to even stand up now. I'm in between a procedure. But I think I'll not let Nitai Gauranga's mercy unless I follow him. So I stood up, I told, yes, Prabhu. And then he gave me a garland of Nitai Gauranga on my neck. Says, Prabhu, now you're blessed. I told, thank you, Prabhu. And then I really felt that, because I pleased the Vaishnava, right? Now I think, now I'll be able to do. I'll be able to offer something to Nitai Gauranga, because how can we actually please the deities, unless if there is some problem with the devotees. And that devotee was really blessed, really happy with me, I felt. And then I really felt that yes, it's perfectly all right, to break the procedure, and Nitai Gauranga will be happy with that, even if the procedure is broken. So if we understand this whole concept, that how the real need is shelter, this whole purport also, what we read, can give us deeper light. So to conclude with, just now I'll conclude, let us connect to our real need, and that is to find shelter. And learn to love, respect, and serve the devotees around us, as we need shelter, and not some so-called success, of doing some big things. We want to do big things so that gives us shelter of devotees, right? So that purpose and goal is very clear. That shelter will come if we give priority to our service to Vaishnavas over our so-called success and achievements. All our success and achievement should be subordinate and should be meant simply to serve and please the Vaishnavas around us. So to receive their shelter and in turn receive shelter of Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.